welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel. So today we're doing part 2 of our reading and writing group activities. Let's go. All set. Okay, let's start with this activity. This one is called Fill in the Gaps. So as you can see, we have a story, but the story has some spaces. So these gaps need to be filled by the students. So this activity is usually done before the actual reading of the story. So they have to read the story and then use the word bank. So I usually have a word bank that will help the students decide which words are appropriate. So they really love this activity. It's very fun and it really evokes their critical thinking skills. Here's another example of fill in the gaps. So I think this was grade 5. They have some spaces, they have a word bank. So as a team, they need to read the story and then decide which words are correct or appropriate for the spaces. And then as usual, if you have a few gaps like this picture, it only has 1, 2, 3, just simple things in the story. You can give this one to the low level kids because we don't want to overwhelm them and discourage them in the English class. Okay, we're back. Let's talk about this one. This one is called Arrange the Story. Arrange the Story. So this one was in grade 6. So they get pictures of the story, but the pictures are mixed, they're jumbled. So they need to read the story as a team and then write down the numbers. Which part do they think is the first, the second, the third, or the last part? So, and then afterwards, they can present their answers and explain why. Why do you say this picture is number 1? Why do you say this picture is the last picture? For example, we have number 1. This one is number 1 because they're still at home. And then they can say this one is the last part because as you can see, it's like they're leaving the park. They're leaving the park, and maybe this one is number 2 because mommy is giving the boy his helmet, so on and so forth. So they can present their answers, and then we can get down to the reading of the story. Another very good, thought-provoking activity. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this one is just a reading challenge. I just call it a reading challenge. So I have parts of the story. So this one in particular was talking about dinosaurs. So I think we had 6 dinosaurs. So this is just one part of the story. So one team will get one part of the story, read the story, and then answer these questions. So the first part, they have to read and highlight. So they need to show me how did they get their answers, and then afterwards answer the questions. So let's look at this one. So this one is talking about a dinosaur. And then the first question says, circle the correct picture. Circle the correct picture. So they need to read and make mental pictures in their mind. I'm not going to tell them which dinosaur it is, but they need to find the correct dinosaur from these 3 options. So here the correct dinosaur is this one. This is the correct dinosaur, and then they have to explain to me, justify why they say this is the correct one. So they can highlight, they say longer than most dinosaurs, and then it has a long neck, very long. So it says it has a very long neck. And then something else they can also say, it's as long as 2 buses and a car. So that is what I mean when I say read and highlight. So for you to tell me that this is the correct dinosaur, the things that you found in the story and you highlighted in the story and you made mental pictures. and then you came to this conclusion. And then the second question, how long was this dinosaur? How long was what's the dinosaur? Diplodocus. Diplodocus. And then they have to go how long? It was as long as two buses. So they need to highlight in order to justify why they say it was as long as two buses. And then they write down their answer. And then the last part, what did Diplodocus eat? It ate plants and tree leaves. So they need to write down the answer, but also highlight to show me how they came to this conclusion. And then we can share with the class. So when it's sharing time, we first, as a class, read this part of the story together, and then we ask the questions. So the team has to come and give us the questions and highlight on the smart board to justify how they came to these conclusions. I love it. It's one of my favorites. All right, everyone, let's talk about the last one. So the last one is also a very interesting one. So this one I call the prediction activity. So here they need to predict and guess what is going to happen in the story. So if you have a story that has two parts like this one, Tiny and Leo, there was Tiny and Leo 1, Tiny and Leo 2. So this was Tiny and Leo 1. So at the end of the lesson, after reading the story and doing our activities, I had to ask the groups to do this activity, which I call predict the ending. So this was the question. What do you think will happen next? And then you can give the students a starter sentence. We think, blah, blah, blah. So they have to talk. So here we see the lion. You see the lion? And then we see the mouse, Tiny. And then there's a mango. And there's a snake. So it looks like the lion is getting ready to eat the mango and Tiny. So the kids can sit down and try to come with a conclusion. What do they think will happen next? Because they read the story, and that's part two. So they can just anticipate and think, what is going to really happen next? So they can just, and then afterwards they can share their answers. So I had very interesting answers. Some of them were saying, we think the lion is going to eat Tiny. Other kids were saying, no, we think the lion is going to eat the mango, not Tiny. Oh, we think Tiny is going to escape, blah, blah, blah. So it's very, very interesting. So the teams, 4 people work together, will come and explain and justify why they think this is it's going to be the ending before we get to part two. So when we get to part two, then we're going to really know what happens to Tiny and Leo.